Get ready. The DE Talk podcast starts now. Insightful conversations and dialogue helping you put the human factor back in HR.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DE Talk podcast. Guess what? It's Recruit Rooster Takeover.
Absolutely.
My name is Ruth Toombs. I'm a sales manager here at Recruit Rooster.
And my name is Elliott Obermaier. I work very closely with Ruth as one of the sales representatives here.
So we are pretty excited to dig into this. We went to a couple of conferences that really showcased, the AI landscape and recruitment marketing, essentially. So we've been doing a little recon for you as well as for us. Before we unpack, though, I really would be remiss to not mention how Recruit Rooster's parent company, Direct Employers, is helping companies hold to ethical practices when using AI. Now, probably the most important thing companies can do to some disparity analysis to ensure the data being collected is not biased, as in only providing white male candidates, Asian male candidates, or even black female candidates. If a company is purchasing AI software, they should ask the company providing the software about the validation studies they have done with the software and how they've handled any disparities they have found. If they don't know what you're talking about, they're probably not the company with whom you should be doing business. All right, Elliott. So let's start off with this is new stuff, right? So what is AI? Obviously, we know a little bit about it, but again, what is it in the HRTA space?
Yeah, I think it's important to remember in a lot of ways that AI is still a very new technology in terms of integration. Obviously, it's been being developed for a long while at this point, but it's the buzz topic that everybody's really, really overly familiar with. So I really want to break it down in terms of HR specifically and kind of its uses there.
I love it. And I always feel like I'm dating myself a little bit, but I'm like, this still feels really new.
I know, it does. And it's new in the sense that it's being talked about for the first time, I think, in a mass context.
Sure.
There's an AI in HR technology podcast. There's an AI in sales podcast. There's an AI in every industry podcast, it seems.
It can be a little overwhelming, I think.
Definitely. So I think our goal today is really kind of just to break it down from what is AI in terms of the TA and the HR space. And so, to really summarize, AI is just a technological field which combines computer science and large data sets to enable problem solving. It also encompasses some subfields of machine learning and deep learning, which are frequently mentioned in conjunction with artificial intelligence. These types of disciplines are comprised of AI algorithms which seek to create expert systems and make predictions or classifications based on input data. So really, HR and TA refers to the deployment of machine learning, ML, in natural language processing, MLP, and other AI technologies to automate human resource tasks and support decision making. It enables a data-based approach to talent acquisition, employee advancement, and retention that seeks to mitigate bias and enhance the job seekers and employees' experience while saving organizations a lot of time. So those AI tools have the capabilities to really assist HR leaders in a wide array of areas, including the following: with employee records management, recruitment and hiring processes. So think reading resumes, assessing skills, etc. on that end. There's a lot of payroll processing, performance management and assessments, benefits administration, onboarding new employees, HR support and service desks. And truthfully, there are a number of ways that kind of AI can help in the fact that it is a faster way to process data than humans can compute. So
for sure,
AI is constantly, I think, developing in ways that people are referring to it. You can reference ChatGPT as saying it's, you're mitigating time by using it to generate better emails for your TA and HR solutions and anything on that end. So there's a whole plethora of ways, but those are kind of the specifics.
I mean, it sounds like in a lot of ways it's taking some of the mundane routine tasks and kind of applying that to it, right? So
Totally.
Right. I don't like Excel, Elliott. I don't like any of it.
Yeah.
So this is great. This is great news for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the reference that people need to have with AI is that it's not taking over jobs or replacing people.
Yeah.
It's making your job more enjoyable because it's taking away some of the mundane. If you like the mundane, the next 20 years may be a little rough, but
Exactly.
It's definitely something that is enabling job seekers both to have a better understanding of building out their skill set through AI and saving time, but it's also helping organizations reach those job seekers with developing better skills. So it's, it creates an even playing field in a lot of ways by saving all that time.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So I guess now it's time to really discuss what does what does AI look like in human resources and talent acquisition? So this is probably just very high level. There's a lot more, but we'll kind of dig in to keep it, a little higher level than typically. So generative AI It's the ability to create like new emails, reports, documents, text messages, things like that. So those things are very exciting to me.
Definitely.
I love that, right? The machine learning, which always sounds very futuristic, doesn't it? Machine learning. This kind of AI uses algorithms to identify patterns, and it helps to make predictions based on past behavior. So, and it's after plugging in all of your existing data. So think like salaries, performance reviews, all that good stuff. This is the one I really like too, right? For obvious reasons, because we kind of have a part of this in Recruit Rooster. So natural language processing. So think when you type something weird or wrong into Google, which I do every day of my life, right? And it responds with, "Did you mean?" So natural language processing analyzes text from emails or other written communication to determine whether an employee is happy or unhappy with their job based on what they say in the writing. It's giving computers the ability to support and even manipulate human language. I know it sounds scary. And it gets smarter over time. So in fact, as a part of our job search function with our career site hosting solutions, we provide Google Talent Job Search API. It is a way to get job seekers matched faster and more accurately to jobs. And then the fourth would be predictive analytics. So when it comes to hiring, predictive analytics can analyze past hiring data and determine which qualities led to successful employees. It might be a specific skill set, educational background, or even personality traits. So with this information, you can fine-tune your recruitment strategy, and you get to focus on candidates who are most likely to thrive in your company and culture. So I really enjoyed, we went to a conference recently. Kayla Campbell is Vice President, Total Talent, Diversity, and Enterprise Development at Pernod Ricard. Knew I get that right. We were at Opal Group DEI Summit in Orlando, and she talked a lot about some really cool AI. And this kind of gave me a better understanding, but kind of breaking it down and showing me what's out there. So Poe, it's like a chatbot hub, and it's an AI platform where users can interact with different AI agents. So it offers this impressive array of distinct chatbots in one place. At first, it was a little scary when I went on there because I was like, man, there's just so much. But then I was able to really hone in on it, right?
Yeah, and I think she said a really great point that I loved of AI is not going to take over, and it won't replace you, but employees who don't use AI will be replaced by employees who are willing to use it.
Absolutely.
And that was one of my biggest takeaways from it. It's assistive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't fear something. You have to understand it. What is it? Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter how little scary it is. It's better to understand it, right? You got to understand it. But yeah, a couple of others. There was it was like, ChatGPT. I think everybody's pretty familiar with that. Claude. There was a lot more, but one I thought was really cool was like MedQBot. You can ask any med school questions, and I would probably get into so much trouble because I'm a WebMD person, and I think I'm dying every 2 seconds.
So totally. It was just, I got coffee with one of my friends who's in their 3rd or 4th year of med school right now, and they're talking about the different uses with MedQBot, and specifically, it doesn't replace it. Again, it doesn't replace anything, but it does make certain things just easier, and that it's right there. In a lot of ways, when the internet and Google first became really, really accessible, it's like instead of going to the encyclopedia, that takes 30 minutes to search and find, it's a quick question to ask.
This is just a transition. We've got to evolve with the technology, right?
Absolutely.
The last one I was going to share, it was like emoji chat, which I would love this so much. It creates full chats with nothing but emojis. I did play with that for a while. It was very fun. All right. So Elliott, we kind of covered, that kind of piece. So what are some possible use cases?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways that, like we were talking, that AI can start implementing into the regular workday. But some of the things that I thought were the most interesting, I did some work with Gartner and researching with them to just kind of learn a little bit more. They've been at the forefront of so many research in the business world before. But the first is professional learning and development. So where do workers see themselves in 5 years? AI has the potential to assist in recommending personalized training modules for career mobility. It can analyze data on each employee, such as their skills and preferences. So then the AI could actually tailor their training according to personal goals. And AI could also help potential HR managers identify hidden talent or identify employees who are ready for promotion based on the patterns that it recognizes within those employees. Also encouraging workers to start saving time with tools like ChatGPT. HR managers can use that time and then develop better learning and development programs, better engagement programs for their team, so that the workplace is less Excel work like you're talking about and more really digging into your actual day-to-day task. The other area that I always think is really interesting, we are in the TA space, is candidate sourcing and hiring. I think a common complaint that a lot of people have about the hiring process is that it's so slow.
Oh my gosh, it's like jumping through hoops of fire for a lot, especially larger, enterprise companies. Oh my goodness. We're in a space where, we're small, but we're mighty, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have to deal with that. But imagine the companies that have all these layers.
Yeah, but even then, it still took.
It takes
how
a minute.
long it takes for any organization. So I think AI can really help pick up pace by helping managers nurture each potential hire automatically. It allows them to receive more notifications when candidates apply for open positions, stuff like that. Also, in terms of short-term workers, so many organizations aren't hiring for the uber long-scale invested positions.
Right now, it's the holiday season.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah, AI and HR can help organizations fill those positions quickly by using NLP or natural language processing capabilities. Those tools can automate manual procurement tasks, save HR teams valuable time for planning for strategic innovations and meeting client needs. For example, AI tools can actually help managers compile requirements from stakeholders and then work within a vendor management system to open a request when suppliers to find potential contractors and schedule interviews with hiring managers. So it really can help just organize a better system and kind of create that automation that allows the hiring process to flow more quickly. One of my favorite aspects of HR and AI and HR is the onboarding.
I was going to say, you've been with us a little over a year now.
Yeah.
And think about, instead of me in your face all day for 2 months of training, right? Which was fun.
Yeah.
But imagine if it was just right there with the check boxes, you knew where to go, what to do.
Totally.
So that's something we need to start adopting. So I really like that.
Yeah. And the ChatGPT or the chatbots for specific organizations is so valuable. I think back to my experience with onboarding, and something that I always felt really guilty about was just asking questions because, if Seth is looking super busy over on the sales engineering side, I don't want to get up and ask him a question and get the Elliott, why did you ask me a question face? And having some of those types of chatbots in that system almost creates a way that I think new hires can feel like they're learning more quickly about the organization internally. So that way they don't have to wonder, because the hardest question for me when I'm onboarding, and I know a lot of people, is what should I already know?
Yeah. What should I already be aware of?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I've been with the company almost a decade.
Yeah.
So sometimes, even though, I feel I'm a very much so a nurturer, a mama bear, but there are things that I'm not going to necessarily recall as being necessary. I just, it's just common knowledge, but it's not going to be common knowledge to somebody who's new, especially new to the workforce, right?
1,000%. Yeah. 1,000%. Especially coming out of college for me, this has been my first experience out of there. Having some sort of chatbot would have been really nice just to, sometimes I'm like, oh, this is just a general business structure that I have forgotten since my business class. Or haven't been
and if there's a
introduced to.
database that has all of this basic information, you can just access it.
Exactly.
Like it, love it.
The other automating HR service that I really enjoyed was just responding to employee needs is so key to improving engagement and productivity.
Which is kind of part of what you were saying, right?
Exactly.
It's very similar. Yeah.
But navigating through really complex corporate policies through HR and IT support processes can leave employees struggling to find answers. So maybe HR chatbots, in a lot of ways, from a more IT perspective too, can really help. We had all those updates earlier this week, and so having some of those benefits, I think, really could help other employees feel like they're understanding different aspects of the business in a way that doesn't require so much cross communication.
No, it makes a lot of sense.
So let's talk about some of the benefits in HR and TA with AI.
Alrighty. So if companies begin to use AI and HR, so many acronyms, to achieve more strategic goals, they may be able to see some really advanced benefits as well. And we're definitely going to be getting on that train as well. So one of the areas, and this was from the McKinsey Health Institute, talked about enhanced employee support. So in 2022, 1 in 4 employees was experiencing burnout symptoms, according to a global survey. For teams that want to better understand their employees to improve job satisfaction and performance, AI can be a useful resource if used in a very responsible way. The next would be increased efficiency. So think automation and generative AI tools can save HR teams time by taking in, again, that routine task work. Think like data reviewing and analyzing the outcomes of recruiting efforts, which in turn can really allow recruiters and hiring managers to identify and refine what is successful, no reinventing the wheel. And a third area would be enhanced candidate experiences. Along each step of the recruitment process, from hiring to onboarding, AI can help managers save time and better reach top talent. For example, managers can prompt generative AI tools to create customized messages that are automatically sent to each candidate. These messages can encourage and move candidates along in the hiring process. Just having that ability to have that two-way authentic communication would make a big difference. So, in fact, while we're talking about that, Recruit Rooster's Talent Community CRM instance, it actually utilizes ChatGPT. And studies show that about 80% of job seekers would rather use texting to communicate with prospective employers. So we use intelligent targeting. Email, text, and campaign to essentially nurture your job seeker pipeline and gain an increase in response rates, personalize that experience anytime and anywhere, and of course, with the ChatGPT included. All right, we talked about all the awesome things, but we also have to look at the pitfalls. So let's keep in mind what are some of the challenges. I mean, this is disruptive technology, and it comes with some of these little pitfalls. So I'll give you an example. Again, back to Kayla Campbell again. She was sharing a story about how AI was able to find 90% of cavities and x-rays. And guess what, guys? Clutch your pearls. Dentists only find about 50%. I was like, what? That's insane. So think about those kind of things. So those are some really cool features, like, again, mundane, routine, but it's able to see things that even the human eye was not able to necessarily detect. What about you, Elliott?
Yeah, I think one of the stories that she told that really stood out to me was about the AI tool DALL-E. You know, when that first came out, I remember being on Twitter and scrolling through that and thinking, oh, this is hilarious. Like, there's here all of a sudden, here's a picture of, you know, whatever you're thinking of, a big skyscraper in the middle of a forest, right? Like stuff that's really interesting that you just kind of creates unusual situations that DALL-E generates these images based on, you know, past data on the internet.
Right.
But when it was starting to get introduced in the HR space, you know, it was asked to generate images of doctors, and the majority of the images of the doctors that it created were white males.
Yep.
And then it was asked to generate images of service laborers, and the majority were Latin American. So as you can see, the data sets that these technology and AI are using are from past internet and what is existent on the internet now.
It's based on humans.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, it is based on humans and how we interact and how we perceive the
It's
world.
our history on the internet. It's our data that's out there. And as we know, the internet is far from a perfect place. And so all of that history is not bias free by any means. This is a tool that comes from biased humans. Therefore, it is a biased tool in a lot of ways. And so I think it is really important that the people developing AI keep that in mind so that way they can create a more equitable stance, but also that when organizations turn to AI and start seeing the efficiencies, that they aren't blind going in knowing that, okay, this is not a tool that's just black and white and perfect. It's going to have all these biases. So it's important to really recognize that kind of that past data element. I think there are other aspects that are really difficult, and I think especially that we were talking about that we're in this transitionary period. One of the things that I think is really fascinating is this bumpy rollout process. Organizations really should be prepared to AI models should be ingrained, but people are going to resist it.
For sure.
You know, the person who has been at the organization for 52 years and is really close to retirement, they're probably not going to want to trust a robot.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that I think is really important, that organizations do a good job with employee security and recognizing employee
about the
privacy.
rollout. How do we put this in front of our employees? It can't just be like, well, here you go. You know, we have to be delicate about it and consider different generations and how they view things, right?
Totally.
You're absolutely right.
And I think one thing that's really interesting, I was talking with, my mom is also in the HR space she does a lot of HR analysis in call centers. That's a lot of the work that she does right now. That's her consulting project. And we were talking about this. I was telling her about the podcast that I had coming up. And obviously, and, you know, she talked about their hiring with different generations of the generation. You know, I kind of missed it in my college experience, never had ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But I was the last to not have it.
That's right.
And now when people are hiring, you know, you have to recognize that if you're hiring someone from that workspace, they're going to be comfortable using all of these AI tools immediately because they've used it in their education. But you also have to make sure that they're on the same even playing field as the person who has been working at your organization for 10 years, like you and I.
Absolutely.
That aren't as familiar. So I think it's the challenge of the organizations to kind of make sure that there is a base level knowledge of AI tools, or at least the AI tools that organization is using, so that people share the same comfortability with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
So I think that's one. The last one, is this cybersecurity element. That is such a huge play. Anytime that you introduce new types of technology and new types of technology that is incorporated and takes care of so much data, it's so susceptible to hacking, especially during the training pipeline when those ML algorithms are created. Data poisoning attacks can seed to malicious code or information in the training sets, potentially infecting countless of those ML model runs and ultimately the company network. So business leaders should work very closely along IT and security operations centers to create plans that will keep AI secure through the entire lifestyle. I think that's the area that is most important. And then lastly, it's really distinguishing that myth from reality. That was something that the Gartner research that I was doing talked about, of just AI needs to be introduced to employees in a way that is pertinent.
Yeah.
If an employee doesn't need to use ChatGPT to function their job, don't force it on
That's
them.
right. The unknown is scary. So
Yeah.
education is key.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. So, and again, our parent company, Direct Employers, who is the expert on OFCCP compliance, as well as a whole host of human resources needs and concerns. So with the extremely fast-paced AI is moving, they're staying up to date with the technology and acknowledging ethical concerns. And again, we talked about this earlier. Elliott had mentioned it, so I want to close with this. So according to the Harvard Business Review, it was something that was said, and it said, again, AI won't replace humans, but it will replace humans who don't use AI. So keep that in mind, right? Don't be afraid of it. Definitely do your research. And companies, I urge you from, an upper leadership perspective to definitely do your research as well. All right, so this has been DE Talk Podcast with the Recruit Rooster Takeover. Again, this is Ruth.
This is Elliott.
We appreciate your time and happy listening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in for another episode of the DE Talk Podcast. Stay connected with Direct Employers on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and subscribe to our emails by visiting directemployers.org/subscribe to receive notifications of new episodes, webinars, events, and more.